And good afternoon to everybody watching. Good sunset. We have a field behind us, and today I had a chance to pick up 200 plus bare root fruit trees. But these came from the Forestry Service because my farm's registered as a green zone. I'll take you through the cost on all the wholesale purchase of the bare root trees themselves. Then we got to jump over into the soil testing to see the alkalinity or the acidity in the soil. Bare root trees themselves, need to stock those away during the frost time. Get ready to plant those. Drill some holes, 2 feet deep, 3 feet wide. Oh, and a lot of holes. Preferable to rent a machine. Don't forget the back pasture as well. Persimmon trees, apple trees, about 40 in total. Inoculate the hole with kelp, mycorrhiza, worm castings, bone meal, oyster shell. Spread the roots to make sure they get a good start and could go out in different directions. Tamp it down, surround it with rocks so nobody will run over it by accident, and then cover with mulch. Then to double up your possibility of food production, cover crops within the orchard itself. And this video is sponsored by Skillshare. And as you can see, my small orchard that I put out here, a couple acres of fruit trees, but those won't be bearing fruit for a couple years. So I'm also looking to see what type of vegetables I can put into the greenhouse to try to keep it fresh and new through the seasons. You know, you're gonna have to cook, you're gonna have to grow, you're gonna have to store those foods. Skillshare has classes and courses on all of that. What are we going to do with storable foods? We're going to be reliant more growing our own. So taking classes on how to grow your own food is going to be a necessity in the future. Skillshare's online learning community is curated so you can stay focused on the topic at hand. Beginners, pros, dabblers, and masters. My personal use for the site is finding tips and tricks for growing different species of plant in which time of the year. Gardening 101. Focused on getting those seeds started for outdoor planting. Yet so many people forget about cuttings. And then you want to overlap that with the gardening calendar so you know exactly what tasks for which month so you can prepare in advance. This is going to become part of our lives as we move toward a more pioneering lifestyle as supply chains continue to break down. And as we've all seen with prepping foods, it gets boring eating the exact same thing time and time again. But these cooking classes focus on a base dish and then roll it through the different seasonality of vegetables. And each set of online classes will generally have downloadable PDFs covering the material. For example, this seasonality chart. So you already know what you want to plant to get ready for what you want to eat. This will make so many of those long-term stored foods more palatable as you're adding in the green vegetables through the year. It's all about abundance, and for me, overlapping through these systems. And the first 1,000 ADAPT 2030 subscribers, click on the link in the description box below. Can get a free trial of the premium membership, start to explore your creativity, and get your garden groove on. And now on with the video. And you know it's planting season when you have wine trellis posts, cattle panels to put up a small greenhouse, and 300 pounds of Sudan grass sorghum. And good afternoon to everybody watching. Good sunset. We have a field behind us, and today I had a chance to pick up 200 plus bare root fruit trees. Now, still need to hire somebody to help me plant them all, but these came from the Forestry Service because my farm's registered as a green zone, and it's going to be a forestry habitat, and it's a reforestry exemption. So to be able to put wine grapes on here in a trellis, and also being able to reforest, quote unquote, to bring a more natural habitat back, even with a fruit orchard out here. So I have a little more than 2 acres right out front here, and we're going to unpack this together. But what you can see so far is, well, I got the hay, but I'm going to need the hay. So we got the hay and we got the plants. So I'm going to pull out these bare root trees and we're going to take a look at them and see what you might expect as well. So 200 plus fit in the back of my truck, but they're all bare root and they're only, 3-4 feet tall, some of them. But I need to unpack these and then start putting the hay on them. Then I'll water
And
down
when
the
the different
hay.
species of
And I need
tree
to
are
check the weather
tied off
forecast
together
once to
in
make sure
bundles
it's
of
not gonna
10 or
freeze tonight.
8, they're pretty easy to stack. As you're going to transport them, but you can imagine how heavy it would be with root balls on that. So a lot of nurseries are going with the bare root plants, especially later in the winter, coming into extreme early spring. Now the point of it is trying to get these protected so the next frosts, because I was unable to plant at the date I got them. Some heavy frost days came in after that, and I was worried about the roots getting damaged. So it's all about packing up the plants and putting them in the straw or wrapping them up nice and tight. Let's see how that's done.
Okay, so I'm going to keep going. When I get this done before the sunset comes in. So let me show you what other types of trees I have here. A couple more peach varieties. You can tell because they have the green stems coming off them already. Okay, these are Gala and Big Red. I like the Big Red the best. And you can see the roots on these are quite a bit larger. So different varieties of apples here. Oh, my bad. Cherry. Here's the Norton cherries. So might have to use a different sized disc when we're drilling the holes off the auger to plant these, because you can see the root structure is substantially girthier than the little peaches. Okay, these are the plum cot. So see they got the plum cot. It's a mix between an apricot and a plum. And we'll really see if it comes out. These are supposed to be super fast, you can hardly kill them, and super easiest thing you can ever grow, ever, almost like put it in the ground. It's a weed, basically. So we'll see how it is. I'm going to try to get a root formation the first year. I'm going to trim off all the flowers, buds that come off. After they flower, of course, see which ones I can use for tea. Concord grapes. You see that one there? All right, so I got 10. Should be able to do at least 100 feet with this one. My first time to do the Concords, I got all these muscadines everywhere. You see me trying to trim those out and put trellises on them along with the wild blueberries, etc. What kind do you think this is? Root size. Cherries. So you know that cherries are always going to have the biggest root, and this one is North Star cherry. Root size, can you guess what it is? This one is the semi-dwarf M106 cherry hybrid. So we'll see how this one works. Don't be afraid to use extra hay. It's only $5 a bale, and rather to have use it, because once I'm done with this, I'll scoop up the hay and use it for something else. I could probably put it in the soil just to churn it up and give it a little extra biomatter. Eventually it'll break down and add just a little bit of fluffiness to the soil. Remember, go big to save your plants, because you can always buy more hay, but it's going to be difficult to buy more trees. And I'm really excited about this hybrid variety. Apparently, the taste is out of this world. Or so they say. Kona Gold apple. Got some crab apple, Johnny Appleseed. Also for pollination, because yellow delicious apple on this one. Tart cherry. I have the black cherry and the sweet cherry. That stack's about done, but what do you see wrong with it right here? There needs to be something under the ground so it's not touching bare ground. So we'll just lay some hay there. Okay, I still have about 50 trees left. That stack's too high already. So once I fold that over and wrap it with the plastic, we're good. What I'm going to do is just like a quickie pile here. And remember, as you're doing this, you're trying to get that fold over so then you can cover everything. So you'll see me when I flip that over. Same with this, I'm going to pull it up so then I can pull over and then wrap those roots at night here and get it tight. Fail number 3. All right, so this one again, I did see if I could pull it. Yeah, there you go. Because the guy told me that the strings on these, he didn't like it because he was like, when we were a kid, man, this is an older guy too, he's like, you could never rip those things apart. You always had to cut them. It's like today, you know, very different, the quality, even in hay bundling. Arkansas black apple. So I'm trying to get a couple more interesting varieties. This is going to be the semi-dwarf, so about 20-foot spacing, maybe 18. Just easier to do 10s, you know. What do we got here? Oh, persimmons. I'm going to try to grow these persimmons. Apparently they grow quite well in East Tennessee. And these are the other ones, windsap. Another type of apple. And then we got a variety of pair of these Keffirs. I think that's how you say it. Again, hybrid species. So you can think about it, I'm 6 foot tall, a little bit more, 6'4". And you can see the height of these trees already. You know, if I'm six something, we're getting a little extra off the top here, so a bit over 6 foot. Those are looking pretty good. So the tips of the trees can get into the cold, not the roots. So I'm going to wrap all these things up here. Okay, so what I have here are pawpaw. Now, going to retransplant. These are not a commercial species. This is just from somebody's private vineyard, and they also have greenhouses. So they do both. They were kind enough to offer these to me. Not commercial, but 16 of them here. They're approximately 1 year old. The roots bear, so I'm going to go ahead and fill all these pots up. And since it's getting a bit warmer, I'm going to figure out where to put them. Now these are going to take 3.5 more years or so before they get fruit. But I'm hoping that with the algae and the granite dust in the mix when I do plant them, that I can speed that up a little bit. But these are quite the gift. You know, these are hard to find, these pawpaws. But anyway, pawpaws, if you don't know what they look like, take a look online. They have some seeds in it. They're elongated. They have a very special flavor, like a sweet and sour something together. It's hard to find that flavor. And these are only native to Southeast U.S., so special treat down here.
And a quick glimpse back to the end of last summer, how the field was left to go wild and the red fescue came up. And before it turned red and went to seed, in the middle of the summer, you know, waist-high grass, what you would expect in a wild field environment. I ended up since cutting that down into something more manageable to be able to plant out there. And you can see where the flags were marked with each row and then the type of plant as well. So the first 4 rows are cherry. The second 5 rows are plums, and then it went up to the peaches, and then we had a few holes left over. But before getting started on any of that, it's about knowing what the pH is in the soil, so you can either add sulfur if the alkalinity is too high, or if the acidity is too high, you can add the lime to change the soil pH. Super important to do that before you just go throwing things into the ground. A bunch of different readings. The alkalinity is, of all things, the highest right near the limestone gravel driveway. Limestone directly into the soil. We had a few different readings. This is easy to do for anybody who's gardening this year and putting some plants in the ground.
Well, we're laying out the orchard here, obviously a rudimentary map, just to know where we're putting it, and then we'll have the different types of fruits that are going in here. So the first part will be the sweet cherry, then we have the black cherries, sour cherries, and then we'll mark each individual plant as we're going down here. What we need to do now is do a soil test. So I got this soil testing kit here. And inside it's actually pretty good because you can test for the nitrogen, the phosphorus, potassium, the pH or whatever. So we need to get a pH soil test done right now. So we're going to do this super simple one here. There's this pH solution, test solution here, and you can get the filtered discs if you want to. This is the full soil test kit here. You can check out the different nitrates, phosphates, phosphorus, potassium, and then they have the barium up here for a few other different soil tests. So comes with 5 of these, and then if you want to use this for any kind of filtration, you can use this. That's what those paper filter discs are for here, soil testing. All right, so this is our main one here. This is all we want to look at is this. So instructions are quite easy. This thing was, I think it was $26 or $27. Okay, so I'll grab it. I don't even know. We took soil samples from everything. All right, this is the peach. And obviously we label it. So this is the peach, and we already had the soil from the holes we dug yesterday. So what we're looking for is the 1 mark there. Pretty clean when you get around 1. It's pretty close to 1, as you can see. It's close enough for government work. And what we need to do then is fill this up to 2.5 off of that on the solution. And if you don't know what you're doing, the instructions are right here. 2.5, which is exactly that much. And also with the soil sample, in addition to the pH soil test that you have, remember there's going to be one additional ingredient here, the barium sulfate powder. I like to mix it first before I put this in. I like to get this nice and mixed up so then this can mix up easily. So if I put this with the dirt, sometimes it'll clump up. I know everybody has their own idea what you want to do, first or second. I like to go first with the solution and then add in my barium sulfate, and then I can get a real clean reading out of that. To each his own. I know some of you are going to go, you should have put that first. And here's a little scooper spoon that you're going to use with the barium sulfate. I mean, this thing's just tiny as all can be. But you only need 1 scoop, 1 little scoop of this with the barium sulfate. There you go. And that's all you need is that little tiniest of bits there. Put them back together now. Shake vigorously for a minute. Okay, so let's take a look at the test results here. And I'll let you guess along with me what color it is. Okay, so our color scale here. Bring it up a little higher so we can see it there. So this is incredibly acidic. This would be like red wine if it was going to be in your diet. Think about this. Soil's a little bit different than your body. Your body you want green at 7.0 for your alkalinity. So this will be the peach here. So what color do you think that is? We're going to come and match it right up here. I'm going to say it's right around slightly acid. Between here and here, somewhere around between 6 and 6.5 for the peach. All right, so let's see. This one is the Macintosh apple. This is a different part of the orchard. But check it out. Look how green that turned. It's borderline between 7 to 7, yeah, maybe 7.0 to 7.5, somewhere in there. Okay, so this is a real interesting one. This was the pure clay sample. We got it as dry as we could, but notice how it turned into sort of a mud, like a milkshakey kind of thing. Somewhere in there, what do you think of that? Now that is for the plums, where the plums are. That's right in the middle of the field. It's really clay there, super clay. And this will be the plum cots. And this one matches up almost perfectly with the 6.0 on the acid there. So we want that. They like a little acidity. And let's see, the cherries is on the far edge of the orchard. And again, it's a little bit into the sort of neutral, sort of alkaline edge things. Sort of going toward tingy green between 6.5 and 7 on the alkalinity scale here. So that's what we got.
So then after we tested the soil through a bunch of different areas on the front field, that's how we chose which plant would go in which area of the field. Because some plants like a little more acidity, like blueberries, they like acid conditions. They really grow well around pine areas. You can even throw pine needles right in the hole while you're planting them. But others like the wine vines, we put right next to the gravel driveway because they like much higher alkalinity, and that limestone keeps that alkaline environment for them. So it's all about choosing the right location for the right plant species. So do some soil testing before you just start digging holes and throwing things out into the ground. And then you have two options. You can dig it with a shovel, backbreaking work. Even 3 people can only do a couple dozen holes per day, depending on how many rocks are there and how deep you want to go with the circumference. I rented this skid steer, $900 for 4 days, 30-inch auger on that, and we also had a 12-inch auger where we were drilling some post holes. It made the job so much easier.
They say wide enough, deep enough for that hole. So I cavitated a little bit to try to get it to widen out and loosen the dirt around, because we have to do it with the shovel otherwise. So you can do 2 of those methods. Get it to cavitate to break the dirt or whatever, and then I just go in a straight line back to the next flag. Because right now it's a little bit wet and I don't want to leave that many marks here, so literally we were down with like an inch. There we go, within an inch. Okay, go ahead. Safety first.
And you'd be surprised, even laying out the holes and using a machine to drill them, it took so many hours, and it was just repetitive work again and again, and eventually the grid started to form up itself. 2.5 days of running the machine to get the holes dug just in the front part, which was really easy to work soil. Yeah, some of it was clay at the higher hill, if you will, the higher portion of there, but in the very front of the field you can see the color changes. In the topsoil it's more brownish. I think somebody had a garden, or maybe it was even pasture for animals. You can see the coloration of the soils even different from the front of the field all the way to the back, indicating topsoil all the way to clay. And again, that's where your acidity tests come in. And as always, you're going to have to deal with the weather. Now, we had most of these holes drilled, and then ferocious storms came in, fog, and woke up one morning to the holes that we drilled filled with water. So what kind of delay was this? About 3 days in planting. And then it started to rain again, and we ran out of time. So it was literally a choice of planting in the mud, which we did on several for the peach trees, and we'll see how it turned out. If it was too wet, if they're going to rot out at the root base, not really sure yet, but we ended up trying to scoop that out like bailing a canoe, and then planting the trees with all the mix right into that mud. And don't forget, heading back to the backfield as well, we had to drill about 40 different holes going up the hill for apples, pears, and persimmons. And unbeknownst to me, apples really love rocky soil, and this would be a perfect place for them. There's no cedar rust either, which would have maybe been a problem in the front field. There's cedar trees. It's kind of a parasitic growth on the branches of the cedar tree that jumps over into the apples and will kill your trees. There are no cedars in the back there, so it seemed pretty safe for location-wise. But the amount of rock being drilled out of there had to stop so many times and back up the auger. And on that hillside, the higher you go, the more rocky it gets and the less soil there is at the top there. You know, it's East Tennessee. It's quite a lot of different shales and layering of chert and this kind of thing. So in order, you know, it's taking a measurement of how much area for land that you have, ordering the plants, get those ordered in, the correct species for your location, marking everything out, soil test to see where the pH is, then you have to drill the holes, then you have to get ready to inoculate the holes. So I'll run through a bunch of different adjuvants that we use to mix to put in each hole before we even planted the roots in there. Worm castings, kelp meal, alfalfa, fish meal, bone meal, mycorrhiza, lime pellet, and a whole gamut of other things. Oyster shell. And what we did was use a batch inoculation depending on the species.
I gotcha.
Okay, so this is going to be for the apple trees.
We're doing some worm castings.
Worm castings first. All right, just pour it in a bucket. And we're going to make up a mad batch here for the minerals in the hole.
Yeah, and this is for about 20 trees.
Okay.
So
this 5 gallons of medium will be for 20 trees. So this is the bone meal. We got the bone meal.
phosphorus, mostly phosphorus.
Most for the phosphorus.
Which is good for roots.
Yeah, because I have 045O, which is similar, but that's a super intense one.
It's a chemical. Most organic fertilizers will be under 20. And I'm just trying to put equal amounts.
Mm-hmm. Equal amounts of the bone meal, the worm castings. We got the kelp, which is going to be an important one. No, not kelp.
Yep, we have kelp.
Do the apple trees want kelp?
Yeah, oh yeah. I'd say that's the most important thing for apple trees.
Okay,
Kelp.
and we got the calcium.
Since we have a hole right here.
Yeah, yeah, open that right up.
This is high dollar, so you don't want to...
Yeah, that stuff was, believe it or not, $130 a bag for a 50-pound bag of kelp. So you talk about inflation in America.
Well, I think it was 90 maybe 2 years ago. So.
Yeah, right, you know,
But
things are going up. And then we got the lime also to put in the holes too, if need be.
yeah, we'll put a little lime in here.
Okay, perfect. And the kelp's awesome. Green, there it is. Pelletized kelp.
It's full of micronutrients.
It is, but you can eat that 50-pound bag?
It'll take you a few years. It's like
No, but you can actually eat that.
It's like your baking soda. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's way cheaper than buying it at the store.
It's way cheaper. Now you know it's not that expensive.
Oh yeah, if you get kelp like that, shoot. Because usually if you get a little thing of algae, it's like 20 bucks.
Yeah, you want to make sure it has the organic label on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't eat 19, 19, 19.
You sure triple 19 is not going to be on?
19.
Can I sprinkle that on my salad?
Yeah, I suppose. Okay, we're running out of space. We have a second bucket. I'm going to put some calcium in here.
Okay, that's ground up oyster shell, this calcium here. It's just calcium poultry oyster shell. There's ground up here, and you can see we got the bone meal, we got the kelp.
We'll probably do, since we're running out of, this is going to be a heavy bucket, we'll do the limestone separate.
What else? Mycorrhiza.
Yes, where is that?
It's in the little, it's a little tiny bag.
Okay.
See what we got. Okay, we got the starter there. Mycorrhizae. Oh, right there, the Mycos.
Okay.
Mycos, let's see, it is, yeah, 1 tablespoon per, probably 2 tablespoons per hole, right?
Yeah, we could actually make sure each one has it. I tell you what, let's run up there. We'll do the small one. Let's do the small one. And
yeah.
Put 1 in each one.
Okay.
And we'll be dumping this from one bucket to the next to mix it since it's so full, and get them both half full so we can actually physically lift it.
Okay.
And we'll be doing just a small scoop, shovel scoop of.
We're gonna throw this in there before we put the plants in.
With the apples, we're not doing nitrogen. Pretty much everything has very little nitrogen. That's a 3, but that's for the phosphorus. This is for the micronutrients. It's low in nitrogen.
I wanted to do
also.
granite dust too, in addition to the seaweed or the kelp.
Yep, I use azomite. That's one.
Yeah, I couldn't find any azomite.
Next time I come across some, I'll buy a bag and we can top dress it.
That'll
so you
work.
can come back. It's good, especially the bone meal, to get it, since it's root, get it in the hole at the bottom of the plant.
And then I wanted to come by and put a bunch of wood chip on top after we do this.
Yep. We might actually put, once we get the bucket, just put a scoop in each hole. And just kind of break up it's mostly for aeration and break
But if we dig this up today, we can throw this in the hole and it'll be okay? It's not going to rain tonight.
Well, even if it does, it's going to rain in the future. I mean, it'll stay in the ground, and it's not going anywhere. I don't think anybody will steal it.
No, I just wanted to make sure that it didn't dry out, or the worm casting didn't get too dry.
This is something like this. This is like almost like a rock. I mean, it's calcium.
Well, yeah, the calcium is, but you got the worm castings in there, mycorrhizae.
And those are all going to start getting promoting life immediately. Like as soon as they hit that ground and moisture comes, and In fact, rain is going to be good.
So let's see about, all right, the mycorrhizae, and I'm going to add this myself. Yeah, what was the mix in there? There was fish meal, because you wanted the nitrogen.
Yeah, fish meal.
And I know there was some kelp in there.
Kelp, yep.
Then we did the worm castings, the mycorrhizae.
Yep, that's the main thing. Mycorrhizae, I'd say, and kelp.
You want to make sure you sprinkle it in on the sides, and it's kind of overkill for the size of the hole, drilling with a 3-foot wide thing for like a 6-inch wide plant, but
sure makes work easy.
Yeah, or easier, and just throw it in there a little extra. We're gonna have to hand dig it a little bit more out. And that's it, and then just kind of mix it up a little bit, pre-mix, churn it in a sliver.
Wet?
And yeah, since these are pawpaw trees, they definitely want all the moisture they can get. Coming down the stream bed here, next to the stream bed. And I don't think I'm gonna really clean out too much anymore in here, except
by hand maybe a little bit.
All right, well that's pretty excellent there.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little more. Eh?
It's a big hole.
Perfect. And that's it.
Not every type of tree likes the exact composition of what we're putting. Some like more nitrogen, others like more carbon. So it was just a mix of trying to figure out the pear and the apple tree. A little bit different than what something like the peach trees would like. Now I do have a fair bit of regular chemical fertilizer, 10-10-10, which is triple 10, or
I got 150 pounds of the 10-10-10. So you see how that gives me an array of different fertilizers to you, from the triple 19 to the triple 10, 12-6-6, and this bag is leaking a little bit. What do we got here? Yeah, this is the pot ash, 045-0. So I got a fair few bags of this too, and should be able to like hit those plants and get them up and running. Now, pelletized lime. So if you're going to try to change the soil pH at all.
But for planting these trees, I was very specific that I wanted to go as organic and nutrient mineral dense as I could to get those holes started. So as I've heard it before, Joel Salatin says don't put a $10 tree in a $1 hole. So I went the opposite direction, a $100 hole to plant a $10 tree. So you saw the cost in the beginning of the video of the wholesale plants, anywhere from $5 to $7 to $10 for each one of those. You go off to the nursery and buy one of those, it's going to be $25, $30 in a pot, one. And that's why I hired the orchard manager to help me put all this together, because I learned so much. I knew none of this before I started on what we would need for each and every hole by each individual species. Now the calcium, that could go in every hole. Bone meal as well, every single type of plant would like that. The biotone starter had a all-around mix with the mycorrhiza and worm castings and everything in between. I could have gone without that one and mixed the others, but at the time when I was in the store, they only had this 1 5-pound bag, so I decided to get it. Worm castings are a must, and then the kelp meal. So those can go in every single hole. But when we come to something like the plums and the peaches, they liked a little more nitrogen in there. So I bought 2 of these 50-pound bags of the alfalfa meal and also a 50-pound bag of fish meal. So we ended up putting an enormous amount of fish meal and alfalfa meal in the holes just for those 2 species of plant. Not so much for the cherries either. But all in all, you can see it's a little expensive. It's about $140 for the kelp meal, and everything that I needed to buy to work this project to get almost 200 trees in the ground cost me about $800 for everything that you see to get ready to plant in the holes. And apple, again, they don't like the nitrogen. They like more carbon, so we were throwing pieces of wood chunk in there. And for sure, you need to spread out the root base so it can get the best start it can. And it really does like rocky soil. So don't be afraid to throw some rocks in there while you're filling it up. And you can spread out the roots and add rocks so it stays in position with the roots. Now I use some of my scrappiest, oldest shoes, because you're just in the dirt continuously pulling rocks out of the shoes and whatnot. Because I was the gopher running around doing so much, so I needed some shoes that I could walk around in easily up and down hills instead of wearing boots, because we were going up and down the field, grabbing tools, grabbing buckets of this, that, and the other. So for me, I needed something a little more mobile, and I knew they were going to get just incredibly dirty and kicking rocks around, as you can see. This total project from start to finish took us a little over 2 weeks, and then at the end we ringed up each hole with rocks, and then are in the process of mulching every single one in. I'll bring you some updates as we move forward. Everything settles down in, and then we recoat each hole with mulch. But cost in total so far about $4,500, including the labor for orchard manager to come by, the trees themselves, which were about $1,200 for all those trees, the soil inoculants, another $850 on top of that. Rented the machine for $910 approximately. A little fuel cost on top for diesel, $50 for that. And this is how I spend the money that people on Patreon give me each month for Homestead 2030 to be able to try to do projects like this and then bring the information out. Because I think we're all going to have to do this. Now I have something that next year will yield me a beginning large handful of fruit, but 2 years from now, I'm going to be getting bushels and bushels of fruit. Now, I plan to distill that in alcohol for several different reasons. A, the tradability of the alcohol itself. B, if you know anything about distilling, the heads, that methanol, if you distill it down a second and then a third time, you're making your own rubbing alcohols. So for me, it's distillation into medicine. And I know also in a pinch I could use it for motor fuels. And also the jams and any kind of fresh fruit, benefits of vitamin C and a lot of things from the plants, and the tradability of fruit for other vegetables and produce, labor. So there's a whole gamut of what fruit can give you. And a lot of people are going to want sugar during these times if they're unable to get it. So something sweet. So there's probably about 30 different benefits of having fruit. And then I have a couple hives with the bees. So, the pollination's one small aspect of it. So think yourself moving forward. What can you do to get ready for these changes, to be more self-sufficient during this grand solar minimum? I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the orchard video here, and I'll see you next time.